What if the person you admired most, the one whose face filled your feed, whose voice you heard every single day, was hiding something so dark, so unthinkable, that it would shatter everything you thought you knew? What if the perfect smiles, the cute morning coffee shots, the relatable jokes were a mask, and beneath that mask there was blood? Imagine scrolling through your phone and seeing their name, not under a trending dance challenge, not under a sponsored brand deal, but under a headline that reads, "Murder Suspect." How does a person go from viral videos to police mugshots? And more importantly, how many signs did we all miss before it was too late? This isn't just another influencer scandal. This is the story of a life lived in the spotlight and a death that played out in the shadows. And once you hear it, you'll never watch her the same way again. She was the kind of influencer who made you believe life could be brighter. Every post was polished, but real enough to feel authentic. Morning routines, funny bloopers, behind-the-scenes glimpses. Her followers grew into the millions. Brands lined up, and she had the image down to a science. To her fans, she was one of us. She replied to comments, shared struggles, talked about mental health. But what none of us knew was that off-camera, her life was not so perfect. The close friends she once featured in videos were suddenly absent. Locations she tagged didn't always line up with where she'd been seen. There were subtle shifts, shorter videos, fewer live streams, captions that seemed distracted. No one thought much of it until the night the sirens screamed outside her apartment. That was the night the mask started to slip, and the woman who built her empire on connection became the center of a criminal investigation. It was late. The streets were quiet except for the faint hum of traffic. Somewhere in the city, a single light flickered in a narrow alley, just a block from where the victim would later be found. Police say a call came in at 11:43 p.m. reporting loud voices and the possible fight. By the time officers arrived, it was too late. The victim, a young man known only to a few in her inner circle, was lying motionless. There were no witnesses willing to step forward, no one ready to talk. But nearby cameras caught something. A car speeding away, its headlights cutting through the fog. The license plate was hard to read, but the make and model matched hers exactly. She claimed she was home, filming content for the next day, but the timestamps on her videos didn't match the upload data. It was the first crack in her perfect alibi, and detectives weren't going to let it slide. It didn't happen right away. Days passed. She continued posting, smiling into the camera, talking about upcoming projects, but behind the scenes, investigators were building their case. They analyzed phone records, surveillance footage, GPS data. Then, one morning, without warning, police showed up at her door. The arrest was caught on a neighbor's phone, her in a hoodie, sunglasses, being led away in handcuffs. It spread online within minutes. Fans were in shock, flooding the comments with disbelief. This has to be a mistake. She'd never do something like this. But the charges were serious. Second-degree murder. Prosecutors claim she had both motive and opportunity. She was processed, photographed, and her mugshot replaced her influencer profile in headlines worldwide. That day, her follower count didn't drop. It exploded. People who'd never watched her videos before suddenly wanted to know everything. And in the court of public opinion, she was already on trial. His name didn't trend the way hers did. The victim was a quiet, private person, someone who avoided the spotlight. He wasn't famous, but he was connected to her in ways we didn't yet understand. Reports suggested they'd met months earlier, possibly through a private event or mutual friends. Some said they were close. Others whispered about money owed, secrets shared, and threats made. What was certain was that days before his death, he had reached out to someone saying he knew the truth about her. That message never made it to the police, but it was enough to spark rumors. Why would a man with no public ties to fame end up dead just streets away from her home? And why did his phone, recovered at the scene, contain a voice memo labeled with a real name? It was the kind of connection investigators couldn't ignore, and it changed everything about the case. Detectives knew public opinion could shift overnight, so they focused on facts. In her apartment, They found clothing that matched the description given by an anonymous tipster: black hoodie, dark jeans, white sneakers. Forensics revealed tiny droplets of blood on one sleeve, almost invisible to the naked eye. DNA confirmed it belonged to the victim. She claimed it must have come from an accidental spill during a party weeks earlier, but no such party could be verified. Then there were the phone records, multiple calls between her and the victim in the hours before his death, despite her statement that they hadn't spoken in weeks. Even more damning, her car's GPS showed it had stopped near the crime scene for 7 minutes at the exact time the murder was believed to have happened. Every piece of evidence painted a picture, but was it the truth or just a carefully constructed? First, her loyal followers defended her. They made hashtags, posted supportive videos, even accused the police of targeting her for fame. But as more details emerged, the GPS data, the blood evidence, the leaked footage, the tone shifted. Comment sections turned hostile. Brands cut ties overnight. People dug through her old posts, looking for signs they had missed. Cryptic captions, dark jokes, sudden disappearances from social media. A video from months earlier resurfaced where she nervously looked off camera mid-sentence, as if someone was there. Was it the victim or just coincidence? Every old clip became potential evidence in the court of public opinion, and while her legal team fought to control the narrative in court, online, she was already guilty. The same audience that once made her a star was now dissecting her life, frame by frame, searching for the moment when the influencer they adored became the suspect they feared. The courthouse steps were lined with cameras the morning her trial began. Reporters shouted questions she didn't answer, her face hidden behind dark glasses. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Prosecutors opened with a timeline, showing how her evening matched almost perfectly with the victim's final hours. They displayed the hoodie, the phone records, the leaked video. Her defense painted a different picture, a smear campaign fueled by jealousy, a targeted attempt to ruin her, planted evidence. They argued that being an influencer made her a bigger target, not a killer. Every witness brought new twists. A neighbor claimed to hear shouting, a friend testified about a falling out, and an ex-employee suggested she was capable of anything when angry. The jury sat silently, absorbing every word. This wasn't just a legal battle, it was a psychological one, and with millions watching from home, every testimony felt like an episode in a show no one could stop streaming. Midway through the trial, a forensic psychologist took the stand. They spoke about the dual identity often seen in public figures, the version the world sees, and the hidden self beneath it. According to them, the stress of maintaining perfection online can build pressure like a ticking bomb. The prosecution leaned on this, suggesting her carefully crafted image hid volatile emotions. They played clips from her live streams, moments where her smile faltered, her eyes hardened, her voice sharpened for just a second before she recovered. The defense countered, saying these were normal human reactions, exaggerated under the microscope. But the psychologist's final statement lingered. If someone lives two lives for too long, eventually one will destroy the other. The jury shifted in their seats. It wasn't direct evidence, but it planted an idea. And in a trial like this, ideas could be as dangerous as proof, especially when the person in question built her fame on controlling perception. Just when it seemed the trial had reached its peak, a new witness came forward, someone who claimed to have been with the victim hours before his death. They testified under heavy protection that the victim had been scared and ready to tell the truth about something involving her. They wouldn't say what it was, only that he feared she would destroy him if he spoke out. The courtroom fell silent. If true, it hinted at a motive far more personal than prosecutors had suggested. But the defense quickly attacked the witnesses' credibility, pointing out inconsistencies in their timeline and possible financial incentives for coming forward. Still, the seed was planted. If the victim was going to reveal something, what was it, and why did it die with him? That question hung over the case like a shadow, and the jury couldn't ignore it. After weeks of testimony, cross-examinations, and media frenzy, the jury left to deliberate. Hours stretched into a full day. Then the call came. They had reached a decision. The courtroom was packed as the foreperson stood, reading the words everyone had been waiting for. Guilty of second-degree murder. Gasps echoed. Her face didn't change. No tears, no outburst, just a cold stillness. The sentence, 25 years to life. Outside, reactions split. Some celebrated justice served. Others swore it was a setup. Online debates exploded again, dissecting the verdict like a season finale. But for the victim's family, it was closure. And for her, it was the end of a public life, replaced by a prison cell. Yet even as she was led away, cameras flashing, there was a sense that the story wasn't over, because in the world she came from, fame doesn't die easily, and neither do the questions left behind. Prison life was a different kind of stage. No filters, no perfect lighting, just cold walls and stricter rules than any brand deal could impose. Reports leaked about her struggling to adjust, clashing with other inmates, and filing complaints about harassment from staff. Yet, somehow, she still managed to reach the outside world. Letters to loyal fans surfaced online, cryptic messages hinting at her innocence and blaming a powerful enemy for her downfall. Inmates described her as calculating, always watching, rarely speaking unless it benefited her. Rumors spread about her gathering influence, even inside, trading favors, securing better treatment. Whether these stories were exaggerated or true, one thing was certain. She hadn't faded into obscurity. She was still a name that drew clicks, still a character people wanted to watch. And perhaps, in her mind, prison wasn't the end of her story, just the next chapter in a saga she refused to let die. Even after the trial, doubts lingered. The anonymous video's origin was never proven, the witness's story was never fully verified, and the victim's phone, with that mysterious voice memo, was never released to the public. Some believed crucial evidence was withheld, others thought the case was open and shut. Online, independent investigators began piecing together timelines, challenging official accounts, and suggesting alternate suspects. Was she truly guilty, or was she the perfect scapegoat? Every theory had its believers, and every believer kept the story alive. For true crime followers, it was the kind of case that gnawed at you. Too many loose threads, too many unexplored angles, and the most haunting part, she never confessed, not once, not even when the cameras were gone. In every interview request, she gave the same answer: I didn't do it. But if not her, then who, and why did they want him dead? Years later, the story still circulates. Documentaries are made, podcasts reanalyze the evidence, and every so often, a new lead trends online. In prison, she remains an enigma. Some days defiant, other days withdrawn. The victim's family has moved away from the spotlight, but the case still follows them. Every time her name trends again, old wounds reopen. And for the millions who followed her online, the transformation is unforgettable. From influencer to convict, from curated perfection to raw reality. The case is officially closed, but it doesn't feel closed. Too many people are still asking, still watching, still waiting for a twist that may never come. And maybe that's the true crime here. Not just the death of one man, but the slow, public unraveling of a persona we thought we knew. Because in the end, the line between fame and infamy is thinner than we ever imagined.